I had watched Kung Fu Panda when it first came out, and as a young martial artist, I enjoyed the martial arts presented and the funny jokes from the movie. I reacted to it much as a child or a teen would, but now that I've rewatched it recently as an adult, I noticed a few things. Things that I didn't notice before. Some of these things I noticed I'd really like to share. In particular, some of the philosophy and lessons being presented that might have been overlooked. Today, we're going to start this gradual walk down Kung Fu Panda and its philosophies and arts by talking about specifically Oogway, arguably the biggest source of philosophy in the franchise. Everything he says seems to tie into some kind of deeper message. Oogway is a tortoise and considered one of the founders of the secrets of Kung Fu. According to Master Shifu, Oogway unraveled the secrets of harmony and focus.
This is where Oogway unraveled the mysteries of harmony and focus. This is the birthplace of Kung Fu.
Now, I'm aware that there is more about Oogway in the third movie, but for now, we're just going to focus on the first movie. How he's presented in the first movie is a very wise, but a little eccentric master. He's slow in everything he does, but for this reason, everything he does seems to have reason or purpose. After watching the movie carefully, I now see that there is more to Oogway than I originally thought. I believe that Oogway is actually a Daoist philosopher, a teacher of the way. Okay, so a little bit of background. Daoism is a Chinese philosophy that has coexisted alongside Confucianism for as long as the two have been around. While both do counter each other in certain aspects, they are not necessarily in total opposition. Indeed, throughout the history of the two, most citizens of China have adhered to both at various points in life, age, or circumstances. We'll talk more about Confucianism when we discuss Shifu and Mr. Ping, Poe's goose father, who I think both embody the aspects of Chinese Confucianism. But to understand the difference between the two, you must have a passing understanding of both. Daoism and Confucianism are both practiced differently for different people, but the primary tenets and points are similar. Both philosophies were founded during a time of social concern and questioning. How does one cultivate a successful, prosperous, and meaningful life? Well, both philosophies provided slightly different answers to that question. Daoism, put simply, is a philosophy on how to live according to the Tao or way. According to Daoism, all things in the universe have a purpose, method, and means of happening, which is all done through the Tao. We may not understand the Tao, we may not fully comprehend the method or means of the Tao, but we can observe it and thus know it is in motion and in action. For example, the sun rises and sets every morning and night. We may not fully understand why it happens or how it happens, but we know it does, and for a Taoist, that's enough. That is the purpose. That is why it happens. You may go out fishing on a river one day and catch a lot of fish, but then the next day you catch nothing. We may not understand how or why that is the case, but it happens that way, and that's enough for a Taoist. Now, through this, the Taoist teacher uses that this is the answer to the burning quandary. What is the basis for stable, unified, and enduring social order in one's life? Accepting the dominant power of the universe as absolute, as it was greater than any foundation of government, man, or law. See, governments and creations of man are flawed. They're created by men, and thus will fade as men do. They will have flaws in them as men have. But the Tao, the way by which the entire universe is governed, it is never ceasing. It is always in motion and beyond our control. We cannot impose our will upon it and be successful, and we also cannot work against it, for it will only lead us to more misery. The Taoists called their brand of life Wu Wei, meaning no action. Now that does not simply mean to do nothing like in SpongeBob, although maybe the magic conch was a Taoist?
Oh, magic conch shell, what do we need to do to get out of the kelp forest?
Nothing.
The shell has spoken!
Who knows? What it means is to model one's actions according to nature and according to how the universe guides them. Now, the Confucian principle is a bit more direct. The Confucianism teaches that social order is the key to social life. A Confucianist believes in the importance of maintaining tried and true moral and social norms. There's a structure to all things. Social cues, standards, and behaviors run deeper than any law. You can build new laws on new governments, but social order and social norms, those are usually everlasting. They're built at the beginning of a society, and they will last usually to the end of a society. Because of this, maintaining social and proper order is essential to the foundation of a society. All people have their role to play in a society. All people are bound by this role. Every person must know their place in society and must live accordingly to maintain the order. It starts at the familial level. The father is the head of the household, the wife is second in command, and the children follow in the footsteps of the parents so that they may one day go on to inherit what their parents do or surpass their parents. This grows into the community and its social order, then into the society, and then into the culture. All things have their structural order and all must adhere to it. That is the Confucian aspect. You must obey this order. And you'll notice that as we've talked about Daoism and Confucianism, you'll notice very quickly that neither philosophy is necessarily countering the other openly. But there are subtle areas where the two clash, and we see that presented in the movie Kung Fu Panda. But we're talking about Oogway. So let's focus on him and his philosophy for the time being. Starting at the very beginning. When Oogway is first introduced, he's meditating and summons Shifu to meet with him. He starts by trying to blow out candles, but does so incredibly slowly. Shifu gets impatient and puts him out for himself with a kung fu move.
You were saying?
This is actually a perfect representation of the contrast between the two. Oogway does things at his own pace and in a manner he sees fit. There's no need to rush anything, just take things slow. Things are going to get done when they're ready. Which is funny because when Shifu comes running in, he came sprinting into the hall to talk to him because he thought there's something wrong. There's obviously something terribly wrong and we must discuss it quickly. Oogway obviously isn't that concerned. He's taking his time putting out the candles. But Shifu requires quick and timely responses. Shifu, he was summoned. His time is precious. If there's a problem with the way things are, he needs to hear about it. And now. He's not going to wait for things to happen in their course. He's going to have this meeting now so that he can quickly get started trying to fix things, even if there's nothing to fix. Already, we see kind of a clash in the two ideologies. But the big one comes later. During the tournament to decide the Dragon Warrior, Oogway senses the Dragon Warriors among them and begins to walk into the ring to select the chosen one. And at that moment, Po falls out of the sky right in front of him as Oogway points.
Oh, what's going on? What are you pointing? Oh!
He then names Po the Dragon Warrior as a result.
How interesting.
Master, are you pointing at me?
Him?
Who?
You?
Me?
The universe has brought us the Dragon Warrior.
What?
What?
Everyone, including Po himself, questions this decision, but Oogway is convinced that it's true and legitimate. Well, why? What's it based on? Nothing. This is part of the Daoist philosophy. We cannot comprehend the meaning or purpose behind the Tao or the way or how the universe works, but we know there is a method to it. There is a purpose. It was the will of the universe that Po appear at that moment. As Oogway says, there are no accidents.
You were about to point at Tigress and that thing fell in front of her. That was just an accident.
There are no accidents.
Everything happens for a reason. All things happen for that reason and all things are in line with destiny. But Shifu, you notice, is mortified and does everything he can to remove Po. Again, we'll get more into Shifu another time, but I do want to point out the clash here. Like a good Confucian, Shifu demands structure to his life and society. In his structure and design, the Dragon Warrior must be a martial artist, trained for years, and incredibly disciplined. It was to be one of the Furious Five. The fact that a fat panda, a loser, someone of a different social class entirely was chosen, it breaks every fabric of a Confucian way of thinking. Remember, the social order being maintained is paramount. The stability of society is built on knowing your place in it. And Po clearly doesn't belong among the five, and definitely doesn't deserve the Dragon Scroll so he can become the Dragon Warrior. Oogway appears later while Po is having a depressed lamentation. Po explains that he doesn't understand what he's meant to do and says he sucked worse that day than anyone else in the history of Kung Fu or in the history of sucking.
I probably sucked more today than anyone in the history of Kung Fu, in the history of China, in the history of sucking.
And what does Oogway say in response?
Probably.
When Po claims that everyone at the temple hates him, Oogway says,
And the five? Man, you should have seen them. They totally hate me.
Totally.
What's funny about this is that Oogway isn't lying to Po, nor is he trying to help him feel better. He's giving him the truth, directly and simply. This isn't about making anyone feel better. It's about getting to the root of Po's problem, which he does. Po is too concerned about what he used to be, a fat, lazy, good-for-nothing panda, and if he will become what he dreams of being, the Dragon Warrior. Or if he will just go back to being who he was, a fat, lazy, good-for-nothing panda. Oogway points out that he's worrying too much about the past and the uncertain future. These things shouldn't be worried about, but instead, he should be mindful of what's right in front of him. Live for the moment and appreciate what you have now, and let everything else sort itself out.
You are too concerned with what was and what will be. There's a saying, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. That is why it is called the present.
The essence of Daoism in a nutshell. You cannot control who you were or what you will become. All you can control is what you do now. You can't rewrite the past, and you can't control the future, but you can be the best you can be in the moment. That's all any man can do. But the last time we see Oogway, I think, is probably the most important. Shifu receives word that Tai Lung, the antagonist, has escaped and is coming to destroy the Jade Palace and claim the scroll. Oogway points out that this is only bad news if Shifu doesn't have faith in the Dragon Warrior. Shifu finally lays out his complaint. Po can't be the Dragon Warrior. He's a fat loser. Then Oogway enters into a philosophical debate with Shifu, and it is this debate that I really want to focus on. So let's break it down point by point.
That's right. Tai Lung has broken out of prison. He's on his way.
That is bad news. If you do not believe that the Dragon Warrior can stop him.
The panda? Master, that panda is not the Dragon Warrior. He wasn't even meant to be here. It was an accident.
Oogway starts by saying that Shifu and Po can never reach their destinies until Shifu learns to let go of the illusion of control. He uses the peach tree as an example. It does not bloom when he wishes, nor can it bear fruit when he wants it to.
My old friend, the panda will never fulfill his destiny, nor you yours, until you let go of the illusion of control.
Illusion?
Yes. Look at this tree, Shifu. I cannot make it blossom when it suits me, nor make it bear fruit before its time.
All things happen at their own time, and we cannot control that. This is an example of the Tao and its flow through creation. All things obey the way. The way controls the flow of all living things and all fluctuations and changes in the universe. A peach tree will bloom and bear fruit when it is time, no sooner or later. Nothing we do can change that, and being upset about it is a waste of energy. Instead, one should learn to accept what is and what is to be done with it. Shifu then counters with a piece of Confucianism, that there are things he can control, like he can control when the fruits will fall, and he demonstrates by kicking the tree, causing fruit to rain down.
But there are things we can't control. I can control when the fruit will fall.
But this leads to a joke where a peach falls on Shifu's head. This actually is a subtle counter to Shifu that Oogway didn't intend. Call it the universe's counter. That's why Oogway laughs at it. Though Shifu did knock the peaches down, they still hurt him in the process. By trying to force something, he actually caused himself pain. This is what a Daoist would say is a natural response when you try to resist the flow of the universe. You're trying to force something that doesn't need to be, and thus it counters you. It exhausts you. It hurts you, just like the peach hitting him. Yes, it's done as a joke here, but I think that there was a deeper meaning behind it. Shifu then follows this by chopping open a peach and arguing that he can control where the seeds will be planted for a new tree. And he demonstrates by slamming a seed into the ground.
And I can control where to plant the seed. Hiya! That is no illusion, Master.
Something to notice here is how all of Shifu's movements are strong, forceful, and aggressive. This is again demonstrating a Daoist view of control, trying to resist the way things are and trying to impose your own will over things and making you look angry, forceful, aggressive. Shifu is not at peace. He's not relaxed. He's refusing to accept the way things are, and he's lashing out at everything and anything. But more to the point, Shifu makes a decent point here, and it ties into Confucianism in a big way. Have you ever heard the phrase, bloom where you're planted? To a Confucius mindset, where you are planted depends heavily on your parents, teachers, employers, and government. If you are the son of a farmer, you will likely be planted on a farm. You will likely only know that life. You will likely carry on that life unless someone else plants you somewhere new. If you're born in America, odds are pretty good you're going to identify for the large part of your life as an American. Your life is often in the control of other people, not yourself. You can't control where your parents gave birth to you. You can't control what occupation your parents had or what they're going to push you towards. You can't always control what your financial status will be growing up, and often those things will influence what you end up as and what you end up doing. Quite often, parents, employers, and governments lead you to do what you end up doing. This ties into the Confucian idea that all life and purpose is determined by societal cues, roles, and regulations. Expectations determine a lot. Yes, there's an aspect of destiny to it because, again, you can't control where you're born or who you're born to, but because you're born to these people, quite often they will have a deciding factor in what you will become. Oogway even concedes that point, but then adds on a little fact Shifu doesn't want to hear.
Ah, yes. But no matter what you do, that seed will grow to be a peach tree. You may wish for an apple or an orange, but you will get a peach.
Again, Oogway turns this on Shifu. Yes, where you are planted does matter, but if that place you're planted doesn't correlate with who you are and who you're meant to be, it will feel wrong. It will not fit. Have you ever felt like where you were or what you were doing isn't what you were meant to be or do? Have you ever had a moment where you thought, this just doesn't feel like me? You're trying to pretend to be someone you're not to impress someone? A Daoist would tell you that's because you're not where you're meant to be, and it's because you're not acting like you were meant to be. This is just another step on the path of the Tao, and in time the universe will guide you to what you are meant to become. You may change where the seed is planted, but you cannot change the seed. In the same way, you might change where you live, how you dress, how you act, but you cannot change who you are and who you're meant to be. Pretending to be someone you're not cannot work. Pretending that you can be someone else or something else, or expecting other people to counter to who they are, is a waste of time. Why tell this person, try to be something you're not, when that's asking the impossible? They were born the way they were meant to be. Why try to tell people or yourself that you have to be something different than what you are when you could try and accept who you are or other people as they are? It doesn't mean you have to like them, and it doesn't mean you have to admire what they are, but trying to force them to change is futile. Shifu gets upset by this and then claims a peach cannot defeat Tai Lung.
But a peach cannot defeat Tai Lung.
Now the peach has taken on a new analogy. They're no longer having a debate about philosophy. They're now discussing the present. The peach is meant to represent Po. Shifu does not want Po. He does not see Po as the answer to their problems. But Oogway replies, maybe it can.
Maybe it can, if you are willing to guide it, to nurture it, to believe in it.
This is a little less Daoist to me and more practical, but it still ties into what Oogway believes. Shifu is not willing to accept what is in front of him and what the universe has provided. Shifu demands control of his life and what he wants from it. He doesn't nurture or guide his students. Notice that Shifu never nurtures his students, nor does he guide them. He commands them, instructs them, molds them. Nurturing and guiding requires less control and more direction. The first moment we saw Shifu, he was being very strict and demeaning of his students. They needed to be exactly the way he wanted them to be, exactly the way he demanded them to be, not what they were meant to be.
Well done, students. If you were trying to disappoint me. Tigers, you need more ferocity. Monkey, greater speed. Crane, height. Viper, subtlety. Mantis, Master Shifu. What?
Oogway is informing him that instead of trying to control what Po will become, or who will replace him, instead he should be trying to take what he has and direct it down a path that will provide what he needs. Think of it like this. Shifu believes that the only thing that can match or best Tai Lung is a warrior of equal measure or power. Instead, he has a panda. This is not the structure or order he envisioned, so he's trying to either force Po to be what he wants Po to be, or try to force him to leave so that the true equal to Tai Lung will be chosen. This is resisting the Tao, and as you can see in Shifu's action and behavior, he is clearly suffering as a result of it. He's miserable, angry, upset, and frightened. He cannot break his preconceived idea of the way things should be, but Oogway is trying to explain that it's not about what Shifu envisions. Every other power that has confronted Tai Lung has failed. Shifu could not defeat him. The prison could not contain him, and we later see the Furious Five could not stop him. The practical means of defeating Tai Lung have not worked, so the universe has provided an answer. It might not be what fits into Shifu's ideas, but it is still the answer, whether they understand it or not. This is the closest thing I can say Daoism comes to a religion. It almost comes down to the idea of, you want to make God laugh? Tell him your plans. Sometimes, the way of the universe, in the case of Daoism, cannot be comprehended or understood, but that doesn't mean that it isn't providing the answer. Trying to change Po or fix him or remove him will not help anyone, and it will only serve to make Shifu feel he was right. Until, of course, Tai Lung wins. After this, Shifu admits he doesn't know how to nurture or help Po, and he needs Oogway's help. This is very Confucian.
But how? How? I need your help, Master.
Remember, he needs structure. He needs direction. Someone has to teach him the proper technique. How do I change who I am, and how do I change how I do this? Shifu doesn't know what to do, and rather than be asked to change his way of thinking, he wants an instruction manual. Someone show him how to do it. You see, it's not that Shifu doesn't want to change, and it's not that he doesn't want to believe in Po. It's that it goes against everything he's ever believed, and he needs a teacher, a helper. But Oogway explains he doesn't need help. He needs to believe. He needs to simply believe in the potential in Po, believe in his own potential, and believe that he can be what he was always meant to be.
No, you just need to believe. Promise me, Shifu. Promise me you will believe.
I will try.
Good.
Now, the final moment I want to bring up is when Po is finally given the Dragon Scroll. He opens it up to reveal that it's blank. But the funny thing here is that it's not actually blank. It's a reflective surface. It shows you your own face in it.
It's blank.
What?
Here, look.
No, I am forbidden to look upon. Blank. I don't understand.
Po and Shifu don't quite understand its meaning at first, and so Po leaves to go meet with his father, Mr. Ping, to evacuate the village. Mr. Ping, seeing that Po is depressed, decides to lift his spirits by revealing to Po the secret to his secret ingredient soup. He reveals there is no secret ingredient. You see, if people believe there is something special in it, then it is there. That makes it special.
Come here. The secret ingredient is nothing.
Huh?
You heard me. Nothing. There is no secret ingredient.
Wait. It's just plain old noodle soup? You don't add some kind of special sauce or something?
Don't have to. To make something special, you just have to believe it's special.
There is no secret ingredient.
This is fundamentally the message of the film. More than just a don't judge a book by its cover, this movie is about recognizing that who you are is all you need to be, and the special qualities about you are what make you special. To be special, you have to let go of self-doubt, self-loathing, and self-pity. You must accept that who you are is who you are meant to be. Remember earlier during Poe's lamentation, he says he's not like the five. He doesn't have claws, fangs, venom, wings, or anything like them. He's just a fat panda.
How's Shifu ever gonna turn me into the Dragon Warrior? I mean, I'm not like the five. I've got no claws, no wings, no venom. Even Mantis has those thingies.
But the scroll reveals that he doesn't need those things. What does it take to make you special? What does it take to make you wonderful? When you spend your life trying to please others or comparing yourself to your peers, you will never feel satisfied, because there will always be people better than you at certain things. But that doesn't detract from who you are and what you're capable of. This is even further exemplified when Tai Lung gets the scroll. Notice what he says exactly. He says,
The power of the Dragon Scroll is mine. It's nothing.
yeah, there's nothing there. He doesn't even see himself. Why? Because Tai Lung never had any self-identity. He never thinks of himself as an individual. He's Shifu's favorite. He's the true dragon warrior. He's the greatest warrior in China. He's done everything in his life to make Shifu proud. His whole identity is wrapped up in obtaining more and more power, never understanding who he is or even recognizing why he wanted it for himself in the first place. It wasn't about making himself better. It was about getting other people's respect. The whole reason he wants the scroll is not only power, but to prove to Shifu that he deserves it. During his fight with Shifu, he says as much.
What I ever did, I did to make you proud. Tell me how proud you are, Shifu. Tell me. Tell me!
Nothing he did was for his own betterment or for his own sake. All of it was to win the approval of Shifu, the respect of Oogway, the admiration of the valley. He demands that people see him as the great and mighty dragon warrior that he is. So when he sees himself in the Dragon Scroll, he sees nothing of value to look upon. Just an empty shell who only filled himself with the aspirations put on him by others and by himself.
Yeah, I rotted in jail for 20 years because of your weakness. Obeying your master is not weakness. You knew I was the dragon warrior. You always knew. But when Oogway said otherwise, what did you do? What did you do? Nothing. You were not meant to be the dragon warrior. That was not my fault. Not your fault? Who filled my head with dreams? Who drove me to train until my bones cracked? Who denied me my destiny?
That's how Po was able to understand it quicker. How Po learned the Wuxi finger hold all on his own. How Po, the fat panda, became the dragon warrior. There was no secret ingredient outside of one's own personal desire to make oneself better. Remember when Shifu asked Po why he didn't quit? Po says,
Then why didn't you quit? You knew I was trying to get rid of you, yet you stayed.
Yeah, I stayed. I stayed because every time you threw a brick at my head or said I smelled, it hurt. But it could never hurt more than it did every day of my life just being me. I stayed because I thought if anyone could change me, could make me not me, it was you, the greatest kung fu teacher in all of China.
Po didn't do it to win respect or approval. He wanted to be better than he was. He just didn't know how to do that. Shifu made his students like him. Shifu had to learn to let his students become who they were meant to be, not who he saw them as, to abandon the structure he imposed on them. Po had to learn that there was not special training or special gifts or weapons required to become special, but only that he was always special, he just had to see it in himself. Daoist principles drip from every part of this movie, and you can make a good case that the whole theme of the movie was to teach some of these principles in a simplistic and child-friendly way. Now, do I think that was intentional? Maybe or maybe not. It's hard to say, but it fascinated me how I noticed all this on just a second viewing. I never gave much of this film before. When I first saw it, I thought it was just kind of this cute kids movie with lovable characters and cool fight scenes. But watching it again, there's some really strong stuff here. Easily my favorite DreamWorks trilogy, better than Madagascar anyway. And while I don't think it's as strong dramatically as The Prince of Egypt or nearly as profound, there's a lot here to appreciate and a lot to contemplate over. I look forward to when I return to this movie to talk about some of the other characters, martial arts, and philosophies presented. I'd like to talk about how this film is a great satire of wuxia. I'd like to talk about some of the other philosophies and arts presented in it. I'd like to talk about the different animal kung fu styles and how the characters represent them. Maybe I'll even go beyond the first movie and look into the sequels as well. But taking these first few steps and following the words and character of Oogway has been a very fun ride, and I hope to do more with this film series soon. And who knows, it might be fun to explore the philosophies of other shows, movies, and books too outside of this. As Oogway would say, it wasn't an accident that I was inspired by this film. Merely it opened a door to a new opportunity. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.